Agape love and law enforcement, upholding justice with compassion. The paradox of power and love. In a world that often associates law enforcement with power, control, and authority, the notion of agape love, selfless, sacrificial, unconditional care for others, may seem misplaced. Yet it is precisely within this tension that agape love becomes most vital. For those who uphold justice, enforce laws, and protect the vulnerable, agape is not weakness. It is strength under restraint, power guided by mercy, and authority infused with compassion. It is the bridge between justice and humanity. The law can punish wrongdoing, but only love can restore order to the soul. Agape love calls those in law enforcement to act not only with integrity, but with inner moral vision. It does not excuse crime or compromise safety. Rather, it elevates enforcement into a vocation of service, where the dignity of every human being is never forgotten, even those who break the law. Agape in the call to protect and serve. The motto, "to protect and serve," is often emblazoned on the sides of patrol cars. Yet this simple phrase finds its deepest fulfillment when guided by agape love. Protection without love becomes tyranny. Service without love becomes self-promotion. But when rooted in agape, protection means guarding the vulnerable with sacrificial courage, and service means placing the needs of others before one's own comfort or recognition. Agape means defending the abused, rescuing the trafficked, and standing between chaos and peace, not out of pride, but because every person is worthy of dignity, even when they cannot ask for it themselves. It is the unwavering decision to show up, to walk into danger, to bear the burdens of a hurting society, not because of praise or pay, but because justice and mercy demand it. The example of the Good Shepherd. In the Christian tradition, Jesus is often described as the Good Shepherd, one who lays down his life for his sheep. This is a powerful metaphor for law enforcement. The shepherd does not run when the wolves come. He does not abandon the wounded or lose patience with the lost. Instead, he risks his own safety to guide, to rescue, to restore. Agape in law enforcement means not only confronting danger, but also doing so with the heart of a shepherd. It means seeing the humanity even in those who are difficult to love, those who scream, resist, lie, or threaten. It means never allowing cynicism to extinguish the inner flame of compassion. Justice without vengeance. Agape love never seeks vengeance. Justice and vengeance are not the same. Justice restores order and defends the common good. Vengeance is personal and fueled by rage. Law enforcement officials are often faced with the aftermath of violent crimes, heinous acts, and suffering that stirs deep anger. But agape love teaches discipline of the heart, to act justly without becoming hardened. The badge must never become a mask for hatred. Agape demands that officers resist the temptation to dehumanize, even in the face of evil. It is not about being emotionless. It is about choosing love even when hate would be easier. It is love that mourns a lost life, even if that life was taken in the act of crime. It is love that grieves injustice while upholding the law, bearing the burden of the public's pain. Few professions require one to carry as much of society's pain as law enforcement. Officers witness domestic abuse, child neglect, overdoses, suicides, and tragedy daily. The risk of emotional fatigue, trauma, and burnout is high. Agape love in this context includes not only loving others, but allowing oneself to be loved and healed. To pour out compassion day after day requires inner strength, which agape replenishes. Agape calls officers to lean on community, family, faith, and spiritual resilience. It is not a call to be invincible, but to be grounded. It is strength born from knowing you do not carry the weight alone. In this sense, agape is not only outward but inward. It honors the mental health, dignity, and wholeness of those who serve. Agape and discretion in power. Power must be wielded with discretion. The ability to detain, arrest, use force, or intervene in crisis situations is profound. Yet agape insists that power must always be tempered with mercy. Not every situation demands the full force of the law. Agape provides discernment, to know when to speak instead of shout, to de-escalate instead of provoke, to listen instead of assume. The best law enforcement officers are not those who dominate, but those who bring peace. Agape love reveals itself in moments where an officer diffuses a tense situation by simply showing kindness or understanding. It may be in the decision to offer a bottle of water to someone intoxicated rather than berating them. It may be in sitting on a curb with a homeless person and hearing their story. These are not grand gestures, but they are soaked in agape, love in the face of injustice and corruption. Agape love also speaks truth. It refuses to tolerate corruption within the system. It does not turn a blind eye to abuse of power or racial injustice. Agape is not blind loyalty, it is moral clarity. When law enforcement officers hold one another accountable, when they protect the integrity of their badge and their department, they are loving rightly. This love is uncomfortable. It requires courage to stand against wrongdoing within one's own ranks. But agape never permits silence in the face of harm. To be a guardian of justice means standing for truth, even when it costs you friendships or promotions. Forgiveness and redemption in the justice system. Agape also opens the door to redemption. While law enforcement must uphold laws and maintain order, agape never sees anyone as beyond hope. Those who commit crimes are still human beings, and justice must always leave room for restoration. This doesn't mean releasing the guilty or ignoring harm, but it does mean seeing potential where others see only disgrace. Some of the most powerful stories come from officers who have mentored former offenders, returned to encourage those in prison, or treated arrestees with respect rather than humiliation. Agape restores the soul of society when justice is paired with mercy. Agape in community policing. The model of community policing, where officers live, work, and build relationships in the neighborhoods they serve, is a powerful embodiment of agape. It is not just about crime prevention, it is about investing in the lives of others. Agape shows up when officers know the names of the kids on their beat, attend local events, help with food drives, or mentor teens. It transforms officers from enforcers into neighbors. When communities trust the heart behind the badge, policing becomes less about fear and more about solidarity. Agape builds bridges where suspicion once stood. It is the slow, patient work of building a world where people feel seen, safe, and valued. Saints and servants of justice. Throughout history, there have been saints and figures who embodied agape in law enforcement. Saint Michael the Archangel, protector and defender, is the patron saint of police. His strength was not rooted in domination, but in holy courage. Officers who pray to Saint Michael ask not for conquest, but for integrity. Blessed Giuseppe Puglisi, a priest murdered by the mafia in Sicily, worked closely with law enforcement and youth to root out crime through love and prevention. His life reminds us that spiritual and civil protection must go hand in hand. Love is the most potent weapon against the decay of evil. The hidden sacrifices of the badge. Agape is often quiet. It is the officer who misses holidays to patrol the streets. It is the deputy who kneels with a grieving parent at a crime scene. It is the dispatcher who talks a caller through the darkest moment of their life. These acts may never make the news, but they make heaven take notice. Agape is shown in restraint, in choosing not to retaliate, in enduring insults, rejection, and danger without losing heart, in praying for wisdom before every shift, in laying down one's life not just once, but day after day in the form of service. When agape is rejected, there are moments when love is not returned, when the officer shows patience and still faces hostility, when kindness is mistaken for weakness. Agape does not demand reciprocity, it loves anyway. It continues to uphold justice without hate. It protects even those who do not appreciate it. This is the highest form of strength, to stand firm without becoming bitter. Hope beyond the badge. Agape sees beyond the shift, beyond the station, beyond retirement. It sees the soul of the officer as well as the soul of the citizen. It calls for a law enforcement culture that promotes dignity, emotional well-being, family life, and spiritual purpose. Officers who live agape leave a legacy not only of arrests and reports, but of changed lives. Children who grew up trusting the police because of their kindness. Victims who felt heard and believed. Neighborhoods who remember them as a steady presence of peace. This is the legacy that outlives the badge. Conclusion: love as the highest law. In the end, the law is not enough to save society. Only love can do that. Law enforcement officers, deputies, sheriffs, troopers, federal agents, whatever the title, are most powerful when they live from the source of agape. It transforms justice into healing. It turns enforcement into grace. Agape does not erase the need for order. It gives it a heart. It teaches that to serve is to love. and that no badge is more honorable than the one engraved invisibly on the soul, a heart that loved the world enough to protect it.